Matters, brought to you by Ascent Reality and supported by Ascent Radio. We apologize for not coming your way last week and the previous week. It was due to some glitches. We had one thing or the other to fix during the period, and we are glad to be back again. So today we are going to be having another very interesting topic, and we have started discussion on property management. And the last time we were here, we discussed property management, that you should know your regulatory laws, and we talked about different laws that regulate property transaction. We talked about CAMA, we talked about all of them. We talked about regulatory real estate regulatory law of Lagos State, and we talked about tenancy law, rent control, all of that, and we did 2 sessions on that particular regulatory laws when it comes to property management and other real estate transactions. So today we're going to be looking at another very sensitive part. When you have a law, there must be a body that implements this law, that ensures compliance with this law. So first of all, I want to thank you for always joining us in all our sessions, and your feedback has really been a source of encouragement to us. We are grateful. So as you really do, I'll introduce. My name is Destiny Unuati Ijebo. So today we are going to be looking at a very important topic, and the topic is property management. Know your regulatory agencies. So property management, know your regulatory agencies. We usually start by telling a very brief story. So today we're going to be featuring a very prominent person. Now today we have Mr. Ojo Osas, who is one of the foremost real estate practitioner. He has managed property. He has been in the sector for a very long time. However, due to some arrangements that he didn't put in place, he didn't put a proper structure in place for his property management, he lost most of his finances because of some bad choices, bad investments that he made along the line, because he didn't have a structure that separated him as a person from the business he was operating. So because of that, he lost most of his investments and everything. His reputation was now in line. So he eventually bounced back, and he has set up a company recently. So to avoid having repeats of his past experience, he now wants to know which are these regulatory agencies that he needs to comply with, to ensure that there is total compliance, to avoid any liabilities either from the regulatory agencies or individuals who he attends to as his clients or customers, as the case may be. Now he wants to know which are these agencies that he needs to meet with, to ensure, okay, are there things that he needs to file as a company? Are there licenses that he needs to get as a company? Now we are talking about a property manager, a management company. Now he wants to know all of these things. Which are the bodies that he needs to meet with in order to ensure that, okay, he is always in compliance with what is required of him as a property manager. Now, just as we have regulatory laws, I said earlier, we also have regulatory bodies. Now, we talked about CAMA the last time. There is a body that was created by that same law, that is CAMA, to regulate activities of companies, and that we'll be looking at very quickly. We also talked about the taxes that companies are meant to pay. There are also bodies that are meant to collect these taxes. So the law that is creating these agencies is what we talked about the last time we were talking about knowing the regulatory laws. Now you have known the regulatory laws based on what we discussed the last time. We'll be delving into these bodies that implement these laws. Now these bodies, they act upon the laws that have been enacted. Now the thing is, it's not like each law has a specific or one particular body that implements it. there are some situations where you have one corporate body set up by the government implementing 1, 2, or even 3 laws that regulate property transactions and every other sector of human endeavor. So we'll be narrowing them down to property transaction for today. And what we'll be looking at today is the general bodies. Then maybe subsequent time we will be focusing on the ones that apply specifically to the industry. But today we'll be looking at those that apply generally. Now, we'll start by looking at the general ones, and like I said earlier, so the first one we'll be looking at today is the Corporate Affairs Commission. The Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, this body was created by Companies and Allied Matters Act. Now, one thing you need to know is that before you can operate as a company in Nigeria, you must be duly registered with this body, the Corporate Affairs Commission. Anything that has to do with corporate bodies in Nigeria, you must go through the Corporate Affairs Commission. And for you to transact as a property manager, if you want to operate as a company, not just as mere individual, you must be duly registered with the Corporate Affairs Commissions. Now, it doesn't just end there when you register a company. There are some persons who may want to maybe grow their company. They decide to take loans. If you are taking a loan on your company's behalf, there are charges. Maybe you decide to use some of the facilities of the company, whether tangible or intangible assets of the company, as security for a loan that you want to take in order to boost your business, because there is always need to reinvest in your business to make more profit. You are going into the business to make more profit. Now, if you are going to make more profit and you want to secure loans using your assets as security, that's mortgage. We discussed mortgage in the previous session as well. You can look at some videos we did on mortgages. Now, if you are securing a loan using the asset of your company as a property manager, then you also need to register this security that you have taken. That is, the loan you have taken, the property you have used, the asset you have used. It could be tangible or intangible. Now, there are some property, because you have a very big brand, a well-known brand, you can try to mortgage different things in order to secure loans. Now, all of these things, you are to register it with the CAC as well. That's, they call it register of charges. Now, if you have created a mortgage over any of your assets, even as a management company, you must register them with the CAC. Now, when you fail to do that, maybe an investor decides to do a search on your company. Maybe you have shown to them, okay, I've been doing business with different banks and they have given me loans. They have seen that I have a performing loan record. Now, if there is nothing to show at the Corporate Affairs Commission that, okay, you have taken loan, you have paid them, you have been discharged of that debt. If there are no records there when search is conducted, that's when in course of doing due diligence, if nothing is found on record that you have done all of these things that you have represented to your potential investor, they are likely to back out. Now, it is now your duty as a property manager to ensure that whenever you give a property as security for a loan that you are taking from either corporate bodies or individuals, you register them with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Another thing that you need to do with the Corporate Affairs Commission is the fact that you need to file annual returns with them. Now, some persons, once they register their companies, they go to their bed and rest. They believe, oh, I've registered, I've gotten a certificate. Now, if you fail to file returns to show, now the essence of filing that returns with the Corporate Affairs Commission is to let the people know that your business is a going concern. When we say going concern, it means it's still in existence. You are still transacting in the name of that company. You are still doing business. People will know that, okay, the business is still viable. Now, there may be persons who work in the Corporate Affairs Commission who are your friends. They cannot do it on their own because they know that you are still doing all of those things. You are still doing business in the name of that company. No, you must file a document attest to the fact that you are still doing business. You give them a report of what you have done in the previous year for them to know, okay, you are still continuing with your business. Now, the challenge with not filing reports with the CAC is when after a certain period, they are likely to give you a notification. Okay, are you still doing business? If after they have sent you a mail, or a letter, you fail to honor that, they are likely to delist your name from their records of companies. Now, you wouldn't want that to happen to you. Maybe you have successfully built a brand that is known all over the world, and it happens in the end that your name is no longer on record as one of the listed companies that is registered. That would be a very bad one for you. So you must ensure that you file annual returns, and it's the Corporate Affairs Commission that you file this. That helps people to know that, okay, you are still doing business as a company, as a property management company. Now, let's say you have onboarded some other persons into your company, new directors, new shareholders, new secretary, and change. Let's say you just made a change of address as well. You also need to file all of these things with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, one reason why you need to do all of this is persons, when they are coming to do a search or conduct a due diligence on your company, they are likely to go to CAC first of all. Because if you are represented to them, you are a limited liability company, or you are having just a business name, or a public limited liability company. Now, they are going to visit the CAC to do their due diligence there. If the address you have given to them is different from what's on record, they are likely to be suspicious. So if you are going to change your address and all of that, you still need to visit the Corporate Affairs Commission. This is why the CAC is very, very important to any company, whether you are into property management, any industry at all. So because we are discussing property management, that's why we are narrowing it down to property management company today. So you must ensure that all of these things, you do them. Filings, there are different filings that you are required to file with different bodies. Then the CAC requires annual return. That covers all the details of your company. Now, you have brought new directors to your company. You need to update the CAC. These are the new directors. You have new shareholders. Maybe some other persons have surrendered their shares to the company. You need to give all of these reports to CAC to ensure that there is up-to-date information on your company whenever you have persons to discuss anything with concerning your company. It is when they have this information that they can say, okay, this person is trustworthy. We can go ahead and transact with them. Many persons have sent investors back out of the deal that they have started. It is because they went to do a search and they could not find anything to solidify what you have told them already. They cannot rely on solely on the words of your mouth. There must be documents from statutory bodies to support what you have told them before they can have your trust and do business with you. Now, let's quickly look at some other bodies. Now, the next one we're looking at is Federal Inland Revenue Service. Now, FIRS. This body is responsible for the collection of taxes. Now, there are, I told you earlier that there are different bodies that may implement certain law, and there are some bodies, just one, you have to implement several laws. This is where you have the FIRS, the Federal Inland Revenue Service Commission. If you want to pay your taxes, you are paying your stamp duties as a company. Now, if you are registering a company, let's say you are registering your property management company. For those who are just starting, you are required to pay stamp duty on that company that you are registering. Depending on the number of shares you are taking, that determines what you are paying as stamp duty. Now, this money goes through the FIRS, so it's a very important body when it comes to payments of duties. If you also mortgage your property, you want to register them as well, you pay stamp duty. And as a property manager, I talked about registering a lease. When you have tenants coming into a property that the term granted to the tenant exceeds a period of 3 years, you have to register it. Now, if you are going to register any documents that has to deal with property, that is lease or mortgage, you are required to pay a duty, that's stamp duty on that property. That is where the FIRS comes into play. So without you paying this stamp duty, there is no way your transaction can go through. You must ensure payment of this as well. Now, the FIRS, they also have state bodies. They have offices in all the states of the federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. Now, there are states, all the states in the federation, they also have their own tax bodies as well. They all work together to ensure that, okay, the taxes that are to be collected within the states are duly collected. The ones that goes to the federation account, that goes there. While the ones that go to the state too, they have their own way they made the arrangements. There are taxes that go to the state and those that go to the federal government as well. Now, when it comes to the federal government, it goes to the FIRS directly. Now, if you are talking about companies' income tax, we talked about company income tax at the other time. We were discussing the regulatory laws. Now, this FIRS is also responsible for that. When you are going to pay your company tax, is this body that receives that tax that you are making payment for. And also, if you are going to pay personal income tax, it still goes back to this particular body. So all of these laws that deals with taxes, they are implemented by the FIRS. So as a property management company, you need to know where you are going to make all of these returns to and at what time you are required to pay. They may be different depending on when you set up your company. There are persons that may be required to pay on a certain date. Yours may be different just because you did not register or commence business at the same time with the other person. So what applies to Mr. A, the dates that apply to Mr. A may not apply to you. But there are some other times that there's a specific deadline that is given to different companies to make that tax returns. So you also need to go deep into that to know more when about you have to make such payment. Now, we also have another very sensitive body. This is the land registries of various states. Now, in every state, you have land registry. For Lagos State, theirs is located at Alausa. Now, if you are into property management, into property transaction, there is no way you can deal with a land successfully without having recourse to the land registry. Now, your client has acquired a property, or your client just met you. My manager, I want to expand my property investment portfolio. A friend has just told me that he has a property somewhere. You also have that duty to advise, okay, have you done search? You may not be in better position to do the search where you need the guidance of a legal practitioner because they know the details that you need to get out of that search in order to advise your client properly. Now, you need to be able to refer your client to that particular registry to conduct a search on the property. Now, when you fail to conduct a search on that property, you are likely to run at a loss. So let's say you advise your client because you believe that the property is in a choice location. Just saying, please just go ahead. There are other persons who are likely to grab the property if you don't pay now. If that is the case, you decide to advise your client to go on without having recourse to the land registry. And it happens in the end that there are other persons who have claims to that same property. You run at a loss and you have lost the trust of your clients. Recently, we're having a search on a particular property. The persons were saying, pay. So just hold on, let us do our due diligence on the property. It turned out that in the end, there is a long list of persons who are claiming that same property. Over 11 persons are making claims on that property. assuming we allowed our clients to proceed to make payment, it would have been the 12th person. So how are you now going to resolve the issues where you have over 12 persons fighting over the same property? That would be a damaging one to our reputation. So we advise our clients not to transact with the person that wants to sell that particular land, because we conducted due diligence, and it's only when you visit the land registry that you're able to know what and what is on that property, whether there's a co-branch. When you say a co-branch, we are asking whether there are persons who have interest other than the person that is selling. Let's say there is a family property, the family has over 4 children from different women, for instance. So Mr. A cannot sell that property without the consent of other persons. If you have found out that there are other persons who have interest, it's a family property, you need to meet with them to clarify what is the position. I saw this and that. It is when you conduct the due diligence, you'll be able to ask questions relating to the property. Without that, the questions you may ask may just be preliminary and to not be sufficient to protect you against any loss in that property transaction. So you must ensure that you conduct due diligence on the property. Also, what you also need to look at is when you are registering that lease that we talked about, you have a tenant that is going to stay for a period exceeding 3 years on the property, and the person is making a payment. Let's say 5-year term was granted to that particular tenant, and he's going to make payments for that term. You need to register that document with the government, and it is this registry that you make that registration. If there is a mortgage on the property as well, you also need to lodge it with the registry to show, okay, this property has been mortgaged. That will also help you to, when you are doing a search on the property and you find something like that, that there is an existing interest in this property, you will also find out the names of those persons. It helps you to advise your clients properly. If you don't know that you need to register a lease that exceeds 3 years, it means you will not be able to advise your clients properly. Knowing that there is a need to register and where to register is a different thing. So the land registry you must visit to register your property, to conduct searches on property to ascertain the true owners of the property and whether there are persons who are laying claim to the property other than the person that wants to deal with the land with you. Another one you also need to look at is Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development. Now, every state has this, even the federal government has its own as well. What does this body do? Now, what they do primarily is to design, plan the state or plan the federation. When you go to some places, you see central business districts and all of that. It's because they have mapped out what they want each location to be. If you are going to a certain place, they can say this place is strictly for business purposes. Every house you are going to build in this place is for business, industrial areas, park, where you can have cinemas, stadium, all of that. All of these things are done by this particular body. And if you are acquiring a property or your client has acquired a property and he wants you to manage the property, what you need to do first of all is to know what those properties are meant for. Let's assume you have a client who purchased a property in a business area where all the properties there are to be used solely for business purposes, and it gives you to manage. If you don't know what the particular location is designed for, there is no way you can give it to the right tenants. If the particular location is required that it's only businesses that should be done there, then you also need to look for persons to come into the property to be business persons. They are not going to use it for residential purpose. And if the area where the property is situated is what you know as residential areas, it also means that the tenants or your potential tenants must be persons who are ready to use the property for residential purposes only. Now, the danger is when you decide to convert a property and use it for something other than that which it was originally designed for, the government can revoke the right which has been given to you over that same property because you have breached a fundamental covenant. when the government is giving you a document evidencing your ownership, there are different terms that are spelled out there. Now, if they have said the property is located in an area where it should be business only, or in an area that should be residential, you decided to do otherwise, they also put a clause there that gives them the rights, the power to revoke that right over that property that has been given to you. And it will be a very bad one that, as a property manager, you advise your clients, and after acting upon your advice, the property is revoked. There is no way you can explain to that client that you didn't know. So you need to go to the Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development to know what that particular area has been designed for in order to advise your clients properly. Another one you may be surprised to note is the court. You'll be wondering, what role does the court play in property management? It is common saying that the court is the last hope of the common man. Now, there are some times where disputes may arise from different property transactions that you have had, either with the owner of the property or the tenant in the property. Now, when this dispute cannot be resolved amicably, you are likely to resort to court. Now, which court has jurisdiction? This is where the court comes in. If A and B cannot resolve their conflict, they are likely to approach the court. Now, when it depends on the facts of each case. If it has to deal with title to the land, then you have to visit the High Court. If it has to do with tenancy, like rent, then you have to visit the Magistrate Court. However, it depends on the value of the property. If the value of a property in Lagos State is 10 million naira and below, you can visit any magistrate court. If you still want to visit the magistrate court when it's above 10 million naira, it means you are going to waive your right to the balance sum. For example, the property value, the value of the rent of the property is 15 million. But because you believe that you can get everything sorted in the magistrate court very quickly, then you can visit the magistrate court to get this thing done. Then you have to waive your right to the balance 5 million that makes it 50 million. So you can only claim 10 million naira at the magistrate court in Lagos State. Some other jurisdictions, they have lower amounts. It depends on what the law in the various states have said in that regard. But once it exceeds 10 million naira, you need to visit a high court of the state to determine your right to recover possession and the arrears of rent and missed profits, depending on the facts of the case. That's how you can resolve conflict arising from property transaction. This is how far we can go today. Next week we'll be continuing the discussion on the regulatory agencies when it comes to property transaction. You need to know all of these agencies in order to comply with the regulatory laws. Now, if you want to comply with the law, you don't know who to meet to ensure that, okay, everything that's required of me, I have done them, then you have not done anything. So until we come your way again next week, stay compliant and file all necessary documentations with the relevant bodies. Thank you. I remain Destiny Unuatejebo. Follow us on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, for you to get live content. And